Ari Guide Season 9. Hey guys, Zeus here and welcome to this ultimate guide. It contains everything you need to improve and succeed, including in-game rank footage, combos, matchups, and statistics from the best solo queue and pro players. Ari, the charming assassin, is the perfect mix between a mage and an assassin. AoE and single target damage, mobility, CC, and even some HP sustain, she can fit into almost any team comp. She was the first champion I reached 100 games with back in Season 4, and it seems like no matter what the meta brings, there's always a place for this nine-tailed fox. If you plan on trying Ari soon, hit that like button just so I can see how many of you are interested. Before we get into the main content, let's quickly go over her abilities. Her passive grants movement speed for 3 seconds if she lands 2 abilities against a champion within 1.5 seconds. Her Q is an AoE skill shot. She throws her orb to deal AP damage and then it returns to deal true damage. It has a healing passive. Every time Ari hits an enemy with an ability, she gains 1 stack. At 9 stacks, her next orb will heal her for every enemy she hits. You can only gain a max of 3 stacks per ability. Her W summons 3 flames that orbit her. They automatically hit the closest target. They prioritize enemies that Ari has charmed or has recently auto-attacked. Her E, her charm, is a skill shot that deals AP damage, charms enemies, which basically means they will walk towards Ari slowly without attacking, and amplifies damage by 20% from Ari's abilities. Finally, her ultimate, Spirit Rush, allows Ari to dash 3 times within 10 seconds, dealing AP damage through 3 flames every dash to the closest enemies. This is the ability that turns Ari from a charming mage into a terrifying assassin. There's plenty of tips and strategy for each ability, which we covered in the following sections. I want to go over the 3 main runes taken by the best solo queue and pro players: Electrocute, Arcane Comment, and Glacial Augment. I will also quickly go over Summon Aerie and Dark Harvest. The first major and most popular rune is Electrocute. Here's a cheat sheet if you're going to try this out ASAP. Focused on burst and trades, Electrocute fits into Ari's playstyle perfectly. You could just proc it off a normal combo, which we'll discuss later. The first keystone is Sudden Impact. This is activated every time Ari dashes with her ultimate. You can get some auto attacks in to make use of the lethality. Cheap Shot is viable, activated every time you hit Charm. This will be useful for Glacial Augment, which will be explained later. Taste of Blood can help if you really need HP sustain. Eyeball Collection for the second keystone. This will grant some AP per takedown, helping Ari snowball slightly. Ghost Pourer is also viable, but you really need to place it aggressively to make use of the extra AP you gain. The final keystone is a close call between Ravenous Hunter and Ultimate Hunter. Ravenous is currently a strong sustain rune, especially once it's fully stacked. Ultimate Hunter will reduce the CD of Ari's ult 15% when fully stacked. Her ult will already be on low cooldown mid to late with items and other runes, so I would highly recommend Ravenous over Ultimate Hunter. There are 2 options for the second path, Sorcery and Inspiration. Let's go over Sorcery first. Mana Flow Ring as the first keystone will help Ari, especially early on with her mana problems. She has high cost on Q and her E charm. So this keystone might be essential in lanes you need to hard trade with others and spam abilities to push and clear waves. Nullifying Orb is a great defensive option as well against big AP threats. The shield you get from this may help you survive some bursts. The second keystone is Transcendence, 10% CDR once Ari reaches level 10. With Luden's blue buff and this rune, you'll hit 40% CDR pretty early on, so look for plays immediately, whether it's making picks with your team or bursting squishies. Absolute Focus is viable, however, Ari's dashing in playstyle will rarely see her stay above 70% health, rendering this useless in some situations. Gathering Storm, the ultimate scaling rune. If you predict games will go beyond 30 minutes, then this rune is perfect. Scorch is viable, but you really need to poke heavy early on, so don't take it in medium to hard lanes, where your focus is to farm safely and push waves. So take it if you plan to dominate lane. Now let's go over some inspiration keystones that can be used. Cosmic Insight is a great choice for the CDR it provides in multiple areas. Minion Dematerializer to help push waves and pick up CS. Magical Footwear is extremely cost effective if you're willing to sacrifice early movement speed. Stopwatch is perfect for matchups like Zed, as well as helping you reduce the cost of your Zhonya's. Cookie and Tonic are viable sustain options. Any of these keystones can be mixed and matched to your certain situation. The second major rune, less popular than Electrocute, is Arcane Comment. This fits in with Ahri's mage playstyle. Every time you poke with abilities, you'll get some extra damage from the comet. It will reward accurate players who hit their Q and E skill shots, reducing the cooldown of this rune and increasing the amount of comets, whether it's through poke or in extended fights. The only time I think it's better than Electrocute is if you are able to proc this 2 to 3 times in a short amount of time, or you're able to hit multiple enemies since it deals AoE damage. Perhaps if you want an extra keystone from sorcery, then it might also be the better choice. As mentioned in sorcery before, Mana Flow Ban, Transcendence and Gathering Storm are great choices. Nullifying Orb, Absolute Focus and Scorch can be swapped with any of these previous keystones. For example, if I'm against Syndra, Nullifying Orb would be great as the first keystone to counter her burst threat. Absolute Focus would mostly be useless since she would likely poke me down a lot, so Transcendence would be best. And then Gathering Storm over Scorch, since it may be hard to poke a good Syndra in lane to apply Scorch damage. These are just suggestions. Pick what's best according to your situation. As for second paths in the Arcane Comet build, you can go Domination or Inspiration. Pick accordingly to your situation. If you want some sustain, you can go for that Taste of Blood plus Ravenous Hunter from Domination. If you want some utility, get that Stopwatch and Cosmic Insight from Inspiration. A final rune worth mentioning is Glacial Augment. Very rarely seen, especially mid, Ahri can take advantage of the slow it provides by making it easy to hit a charm. The slow it provides from the actives we will purchase, which I'll cover in more detail in the item sections, allows us to make picks and catch out enemies nearby in Fog of War. This is best taken when your team already has enough damage but lacks pick potential or even engage, since you will lose potential damage compared to the previous 2 runes. Again, you can mix and match keystones as previously mentioned. The most solid choice for the second path when taking Glacial Augment is taking Domination and going for Cheap Shot and Ingenious Hunter. Cheap Shot is perfect for Glacial Augment. With all the slows you proc, you'll get extra consistent damage. Ingenious Hunter synergizes well with this build. You'll have 3 actives if you get Zhonya's as well, with shorter CDs so you can make more plays. We'll cover all the items in that section. The last 2 major runes that deserve some mention is Summon Aerie and Dark Harvest. You can replace Arcane Comet with Summon Aerie if you want to pressure early game. You'll need to auto frequently to get the optimal damage from this rune. This rune doesn't scale well, and Ahri cannot make use of the shield active from Aerie. Dark Harvest has some potential to snowball, as well as the infinite scaling. You can seriously blow up champs late game. Unfortunately, it lacks pressure early on, and requires a lot of stacks to be viable. Right now in this meta, you will rarely take advantage of this rune, since you need the pressure and damage from Electrocute very early on. The most popular and consistent start is Doran's Ring and 2 HP pots. AP, HP, mana regen, and extra damage to minions, everything Ahri needs. You can pick up a Dark Seal on your first back or another Doran's Ring. Corrupting Potion is another viable start if you're going for heavy trades. I would suggest getting a lot of autos in to make use of the burn this provides. The first major buy for every rune except Glacial Augment, which I'll cover later, is Luden's Echo. AP, 20% CDR, mana, and extra burst from its Echo passive. You have a lot of potential to burst a lot of squishies at this point. It has a convenient build path through Lost Chapter, giving you AP and especially mana when you level up, to trade and push waves. Sorcery boots are the most optimal second tier boots, providing Magic Pen a valuable stat early on. Ninja Tabis are an okay choice against heavy AD comps, but you can always just get Zhonya's to deal with AD threats. And Mercury treads against heavy AP and CC. For some matchups that have potential to burst Ahri, such as a Syndra or Annie, you may want to rush these either before or after your Lost Chapter. Morellos are the most common and optimal second buy, great AP, Magic Pen and HP, as well as the Grievous Wound passive. That's it for the pretty common core build. The next items should be purchased accordingly. Rabadon's Death Cap if you find yourself ahead and snowballing with plenty of gold. Zhonya's is a great defensive item against huge threats like Zed or Talon. It still has a nice amount of AP, so you'll still be a damage threat. Void Staff is essential when the enemy starts stacking MR. Mage Eyes can be bought if you're really ahead and predict you'll pick up more kills. I would still recommend this after Ludens, since you want the mana that Ludens provides. I've actually seen a lot of people try Protobelt, so that's an option too, even as your first item. It doesn't have as much AP or burst as Ludens, and you lack mana sustain, but it is cheaper. A simple Protobelt dash to charm can take enemies off guard. Banshees is a safe purchase against any CC threats later on. Spellbinder is a surprisingly good buy that synergizes well with Ahri's playstyle. great burst potential. Rylai's and Liandry's are also an option. Rylai's for the slow, if utility is what you need, and Liandry's against HP stacked enemy teams. Lichbane is an okay item, since Ahri will make use of most of the stats. Just make sure to weave in auto attacks after your dashes so you gain optimal damage from this passive. Now let's go over 2 items for the Glacial Augment build. The first major buy is the Hextech GLP. AP, mana and 20% CDR just like Luden's, but instead has an active which throws a spray of icicles that damage and slow enemies hit. They'll be slowed even longer with the Augment active. It has a surprisingly long distance, so it can be used early, then followed with a charm. Use your dashes to position yourself if you need to. Another item specifically built for Glacial Augment is Twin Shadows. AP, 10% CDR and movement speed, as well as the interesting active which summons 2 ghosts that hunt down 2 closest enemies and slows them on contact. These will also proc your Augment active, potentially slowing even more enemies that are nearby the ghosted enemies. This active makes it ideal for catching out immobile champs to burst or making plays with your team. You can always purchase a Lost Chapter first if you need the mana, then Twin Shadows, or even first buy Twin Shadows. You do not want to purchase Luden's with this rune, but all other items discussed previously are viable. I want to quickly special mention a Gunblade buy. You can purchase this before or after Luden's if you're after something different. It's fun, but not gold efficient for someone like Ahri. Flash is the first summoner. Even though Ahri has 3 dashes, she still needs Flash before level 6 and even after when her ult is down, as well as to perform those sick charm plus flash plays which we'll explain in combos. Ignite is the second summoner, increases kill potential by dealing true damage and applying Grievous Wound. I would actually prioritize Ignite over everything else that I'm going to mention, since you are an assassin and you should always focus on trying to burst and kill enemies. Cleanse might be necessary against hard CC like Lissandra. Barrier is okay against champs that have huge burst potential. Exhaust against some AD threats like Zed or Talon. Again, I would still recommend Ignite 90% of the times. You can always purchase items like Zhonya's, as previously mentioned, if you need to deal with huge threats. Charm plus Flash. You need to Charm, then immediately Flash. It will extend the range and catch enemies off guard. This is an amazing combo to catch out enemies that are far away. The main trade combo pre-6. E, Q, auto attack, W. The important part is landing the charm, as it amplifies all ability damage by 20. You then want Q immediately, since it will take some time for a return, and then AA plus W. The enemy will be walking slowly towards you during this time. You can follow up with more autos or even Ignite to finish them off, or simply walk away. The main combo. E, Q, R, W, auto attack, R, auto attack, R. That is the most amount of damage in the shortest amount of time. You can use one R at the beginning for better positioning. Later in the game, you'll have enough CDR to be able to proc multiple Q, W, and E's within your ult duration. The Deceptive Charm. E plus R. E then immediately R to catch enemies off guard. The animation of your dash will slightly cover the charm. You need to be within the charm range, as it will not extend the range of charm like the previous charm plus flash combo. W mid dash, R plus W. Even though I mentioned charming first in the main combo, you can always W mid dash for extra burst. Q plus flash. Q then instantly flash to extend the range of Q. This slightly cancels the Q animation. You can always Q then flash to reposition the return Q. R plus flash. R then immediately flash to extend the range you reach with your R bolts. A few extra combos worth mentioning: a gap closing engage, R, E, flash. You won't get the damage from your first R, but you'll surprise enemies that are really far away. The drive-by needs to be within charm range, E, Q, R, W, R away. Lots of damage within 1 second and a quick escape. This is perfectly for finishing or bursting squishies and getting away instantly with almost no risk. And you can also do this when charm is out of range by R, E, Q, W, then R. Using all these combos mentioned, you want to mix and match to fit your specific situation. The main things to remember is that your charm is the best when it's used first, since it amplifies all your abilities' damage, and you want to use your dash to reposition Q when necessary. Although there are plenty of tips throughout this guide, Let's go over some more. You can use your Q to check if there are enemies in a brush. Once you throw out your Q, if you gain stacks or heal from your Q passive, that means there's someone in there. This is great to avoid face checking. Your passive can proc from a single Q if you hit an enemy twice. Use the long range of Q to proc the movement speed to either escape or gap close. Her Q has a sweet spot right at the max range tip, where you will deal both the first and second part of the damage with one hit. It's not exactly easy to aim, but keep it in mind for a surprise burst with a Q poke. When fighting in minions, make sure to order the champ before you use your W, so it will prioritize the champion first, otherwise you risk losing the W damage to minions. If your team decides to invade, starting E for the CC is a good idea. Hitting the charm will almost always result in a kill. However, don't level it until you're ready to throw it out. You'll struggle to push at level 1 without your Q, and some enemies can abuse you early on. Hitting charms is much easier when an enemy is chasing you. Use your charm right next to your tower to bait them in. Sometimes you may want to max E second, instead of W. This will increase the charm duration, making it an extremely valuable CC, however you lose the extra damage from W. This is great for a utility based gameplay with Glacial Augment, or any other time you feel like you need more CC on your team. Charm has a small delay and isn't the hardest skill shot to dodge. Try to chain CC Charm with your ally CC for more consistency. If they're already stunned or even slowed, it will make this much easier to hit. When you have ult in lane, push mid hard to draw pressure and hit the tower to obtain some plating gold. Careful with hard CC matchups like Lissandra and Malzahar, which you cannot dodge their ults, especially if they flash. Most other matchups, if you ever get ganked, you have 3 dashes for an escape. Hopefully the pressure you draw will alleviate pressure on other lanes and jungler. Be creative with your escapes, don't just dash through lane all the time. Try to dash through walls, as it will be much harder for enemies to catch up. Your W and R won't attack enemies in Fog of War. When fighting near brushes, try to ward or step in a brush before you use these abilities. Because of your 3 dashes, you can position very aggressively in teamfights. You can sometimes even come from behind to catch unsuspecting ADCs. Strengths. Very mobile. With 3 dashes, you cover plenty of distance, which you can use to assassinate any targets that are too far away or simply escape any tight situation through almost any walls. Also, your passive gives you a decent amount of movement speed when you hit 2 abilities. Lots of AoE and single target damage. Her Q, W and R do plenty of damage to multiple targets. Try to hit those Qs when enemies are aligned in teamfights. If you're able to hit charms mid to late, you'll burst any squishies. Good at making picks. Hitting a charm mid to late game will almost always result in a kill. The charm not only renders the enemy useless, it makes them walk towards Ahri and most likely her team. Take Glacial Augment with Twin Shadows and you'll be catching out enemies even in Fog of War. Good HP sustain. Your Qs heal you when it has 9 stacks, which is perfect for the laning phase. Good wave clear. Your Q will clear the backline